You heard Gary Hess talk about the protest against data centers. I saw something that was really ironic. It was a news report about how bad the data centers were from a reporter who was standing, quote unquote, in the technology studios. Can't have technology without the data centers. All the people that are complaining, hey, you know what? Let's get together. I'm going to send you an email, get it on your phone, use your Gmail, and we'll all get together to go protest the data centers. How do you think you're able to use your cell phone to organize a protest that you email somebody back and forth? Where do you think that gets done? Through the data centers. And I know there's so many people, and listen, I've done my research, I've asked. Yeah, there are some issues with data centers. Let's find out what the truth is and what people are throwing out there as well. So you've heard from a lot of people that are just anti-data center no matter what. Anti-data center no matter what. So I want to bring someone on who's going to help explain to me from the data center perspective.
Patrick Hedger.
What's going on and some of the information we have that's useful, some that's not. Patrick Hedger is from Net Choice. He's the director of policy for this organization, and he's joining us right now on News Radio WRVA. Well, you heard the report about people in Chesterfield County. There are a couple dozens got together to protest the data centers. When you hear that, what do you think of?
Yeah, I don't want to discount people having legitimate concerns. Power prices are going up in lots of parts of this country. But it's ironic to hear about a protest in Richmond over data centers and electricity prices, considering that Virginia's electricity prices have increased below the rate of inflation. And Virginia has some of the most affordable power in the country at this point. Meanwhile, places that have gotten close to banning data centers, such as Maine, have some of the most expensive electricity in the country, but almost no data centers to speak of. So this idea that data centers are driving a massive price increase in electricity is just not true. There's a tremendous amount of misinformation out there. I know people have legitimate concerns, but data centers are becoming a scapegoat for a lot of problems caused by other bad policies.
Okay, there are some legitimate concerns. What would be legitimate concerns? What are illegitimate concerns? Because I hear water, and I've done my research on water, and I think originally the data centers, they sucked up a lot of water. But as technology has given me the difference between my iPhone 1 and my iPhone 15, technology's gotten better, and the data center industry's gotten better. We hear about the electrical grids. Those are the two big things that people always talk about when they say, we don't want data centers. How do you respond?
Yeah, so on the electric grid part, data centers, what's really unique about them is that they are a new source of demand that can help lower electricity costs while making investments in the grid. The main way that data centers actually lower electricity bills or put downward pressure on electricity bills is because there are two parts of your electric bill. It's how much you consume, and then there's the fixed cost of the grid, the power lines, the generation, the substations, all of that stuff that actually delivers the electrons to you. And data centers are able to subsidize those costs by being a huge source of demand. So you're able to spread out that cost over a larger base of users. And that helps actually lower bills for residents.
Okay, so someone
if you want the grid to improve.
Let me jump in here with you, because our listeners are like, wait a minute, I've heard the difference. You guys suck up so much electricity, it raises the demand throughout the Commonwealth, which means our electrical bills go up because there's that scarcity and we have to go buy energy from other places. And then we keep hearing these data centers are making us upgrade solely for their purposes, the grid, which is what's true, what's not true.
Yeah. So again, we've seen studies, including one from Lawrence Berkeley National Labs, which is Department of Energy facility, that have shown that data centers are making major contributions to upgrading the grid. Look, the main problem that we have with electricity prices is an aging grid, and data centers are able to help make those investments possible. Forget data centers for a second. If you want more manufacturing in this country, you want to build more housing in this country, we're going to need to upgrade the grid, and we're going to need to put more power on the grid. Residential AC, for example, uses far more electricity than data centers ever have or ever will. and so again, we're sort of killing the golden goose here when you're protesting about data centers, but then also complaining about high electricity prices.
Okay,
again, these are companies that can help make those investments.
Right. And see, that's where I want to get to this, because I think data centers are being thrown under the bus, quite honestly, by some environmentalists and some activists. And for whatever reason, our grid is ancient and it's not getting better. And we haven't done anything to upgrade our electric grid for years and decades. And now that we are in this new fourth industrial revolution, whether it's going to be data centers or manufacturing, we're going to have to upgrade our grid, air conditioning, more robotics, everything else. Data centers seem to be on the cutting edge of that, but unless we upgrade our grid and find new sources of electricity, and we keep shutting down fossil fuels, we keep shutting down coal plants, we keep ratcheting back how we generate electricity when we see nothing but a demand for electricity, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No, you're absolutely right. And I want to get to the issue of water use.
Yeah.
Data centers, a major hyperscale data center, the biggest ones, big gigawatt facility, depending on where you're located in the country, if it uses water, because some data centers don't use water, they use dry cooling instead, which uses just a little more electricity. But a major hyperscale data center in terms of water use uses about 1 to 2 golf courses, depending on where the golf course is located. We've never heard any complaints about water use for golf courses. And a golf course doesn't provide you all of the modern conveniences of modern life, like you were saying, everything that you do on your phone. But data centers do. And so this is critical infrastructure that we're building that uses really a negligible amount of water, because there are far more golf courses in this country than there are data centers.
Okay. Here's something else we hear all the time. I don't want to live next to a data center. These data centers make a racket. I just saw a story online the other day on YouTube of a data center that went up next to a residential area, and the people are like, all I hear is a bzzz of the data centers 24 hours a day. Explain that to me.
Yeah, so there's data centers are subject to all existing regulation. There's this, it's kind of crazy, all these complaints that you hear about data centers, and there's no data center exception to nuisance law. There's no data center exception to environmental law. We have to comply with every single state and local and federal law that applies to nuisances, applies to energy use, applies to water use, pollution, things like that. So all of these things related to data centers at a local level are regulated by setbacks, zoning ordinances, noise ordinances. Data centers, and the average ambient noise coming from a data center is actually fewer decibels than the ambient noise that you would hear in a conference room.
So the data centers themselves, the servers inside are one thing, and then I think, and from what my research has said, that it's the generator next to the data center. And again, this all goes back to, we need to find good, clean, affordable energy in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We need to upgrade our electric grid. And it seems to me like these are short-term issues and challenges we have that are all being dumped in the data center lap in order to make excuses why we haven't invested in coal and nuclear and hydro or however else we're going to generate electricity. It seems like we're just dumping all of that in the data centers and making them a scapegoat.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. This is like blaming, we're blaming demand here. And that's like it's a very similar issue to what I see in the housing market, right? Housing prices are high, and, the real problem, the real culprit is supply. You can't blame people for demanding a place to live. And data centers are being built in response to consumer demand. We have to build to keep up with just consumer demand in terms of everything that you're doing on your phone and your laptop, cloud computing. We need to build and open a new data center in this country at a pace of about 1 a week. And we've been building them at a pace of about 1 a week for the better part of the last 20 years in the United States. Yet for some reason, they've only become part of the news cycle within the last couple months. And I think that has to do with the fact that it is the rise of artificial intelligence, and our foreign adversaries understand that data centers are critical to America being advanced in that industrial revolution, the AI revolution.
It reminds me, I saw someone going before congressional testimony talking about how much she hated oil and we should stop using oil. And they asked her, well, that iPhone is made with plastics that are derived from oil. How did you get here? I drove a car. Well, your car took oil to get here. How did you fly? I flew. Well, aviation fuel comes from oil. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, because everybody that wants to say, hey, let's get rid of the data centers, are you willing to give up your iPhone? Are you willing to give up YouTube, the apps, your Candy Crush game? Because all of those are run through a data center.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, forget AI for a second. I know people have, qualms about and concerns about AI, but the vast majority of what a data center does is, your ability to order an Uber, order a package on Amazon, make sure that regardless of whatever hospital you're taken to, they're able to access your health records. And that is what data centers make possible. That's the important part to the economy. And I asked people, what's the alternative? Do you think it would be more efficient to have lots of small data centers in every single building? Because you don't want to give up cloud computing. You don't want to give up data storage and processing. So what is your alternative? Data centers are the way we do this the most efficient way, by doing it at scale.
I think people thought it was a cloud and they just kind of sat up there on the cloud, didn't realize that cloud actually had spaces on Earth that people would have all of that stored. And now they're just kind of discovering that. Patrick, this is way too complicated to unpack in just one segment. I think you opened up some eyes and gave some people some things to think about. Again, data centers aren't perfect. There's some things we could do to always improve them. Technology is going to get better 5 years from now. Some of these conversations will be completely different. Look at your car you bought 5 years ago. It's obsolete. Technology is jumping by leaps and bounds. So I'd love to continue this conversation with you.
Yeah, happy to come back anytime. Thanks for letting me dispel some myths about the industry.
And they are some myths out there. Absolutely. Hey, Patrick, appreciate it. We're going to do this again.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Patrick Hedger joining us, NetCause. You want to comment, please? And I know there's a lot of people that are anti-data center, but I wanted to give you an alternative on these because, again, I think they're becoming scapegoats for a lot of other things, including we don't build new power plants and we haven't invested in our infrastructure for electricity in a long time. We'll get your thoughts. 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140. All right, today's program is brought to you in part by my very good friends. In fact, I think I'm taking my son out there.